4.
Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to those who are here with us in the room. Shabbat Shalom to those who are joining us via live stream this evening. It is good to be with you in person and virtually on this first full Shabbat of the new year, post Yom Kippur, as we are practicing singing our new song, as we are celebrating having made our way through the celebratory but heavy themes of the High Holy Days, and now we have the opportunity to be in the fullness of ourselves in that quiet space between Shabbat, between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So it is wonderful to be with you as we practice the words of that new song. And we are particularly excited on this Shabbat to get to be with Jack Nodler and his family as he prepares to celebrate his bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. And as we begin our service, I am going to invite up Jack and his parents, Marcus and Dorian, to lead us in the lighting of the candles, which can be found on page 3 in your prayer book, page 3 in the blue books. You can take your masks off.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We are going to continue with the task of welcoming the Sabbath bride by turning to pages 20 and 21 for Lechado D. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 because those are my favorites. And when we get to verse 9, we will rise, we will turn towards the door to welcome Shabbat as she enters. Page 20, Lechado D.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmi'anu el ha'miuchad Shabbat Mikabela Likrat Shabbat Lechu v'necha Ki hi mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem mesucha Sof ma'aseh v'machshavat tchila גם בשמחה וצהלה תוך אמוני עד סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת
We remain standing as we turn to page 28 for Baruch Hu, page 28. Now is the time of year when the non-Jewish parents at the Becker School are very confused about what days there is school and what days there is no school. Because for this month, we've got just holes in the calendar. And if you're Jewish, that's great because you can celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot with your children. And if you're not Jewish, then it's very confusing. But it is, when you look at the calendar and you see all of these gaps, it is a moment to appreciate the way that the Jewish calendar has created these speed bumps that ask us to slow down, that ask us to take a pause from our lives, that ask us to be present to what is happening in a way that we might not otherwise be present. And the truth of the matter is that we already have a mechanism for that, which is Shabbat. Every week we have this moment that is supposed to be a pause, a breath. In traditional Judaism, we would take 25 hours. In our lives, even if we can take an hour for this service, it is a meaningful pause, a meaningful breath, and an opportunity to appreciate the wonder that is around us with that breath. And so I want to share with you a poem by the poet Rilke as a way to acknowledge the way that this season gives us a breath. We set the pace, but this press of time, take it as a little thing next to what endures. All this hurrying soon will be over. Only when we tarry do we touch the holy. Young ones, don't waste your courage racing so fast, flying so high. See how all things are at rest. Darkness and morning light, blossom and book. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. We continue together in the middle of page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi Chamocha, page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, leolam vaed. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ugealo miad chazak mimenu, baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Our next prayer, Hashkivenu, asks God to spread over us God's Sukkot Shalom, God's shelter of peace. As we are preparing for Sukkot, it is a gentle reminder that peace, even when it's temporary, is a gift from God. Page 42, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu, uvoenu, lechaim ushalom, be'ata be'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim.
We turn now to page 46 for the Amidah as we invite Jack to lead our congregation in prayer. We rise for the Amidah, page 46.
Adonai, Sept, Tiftaf, Ufi, Yagita, Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotzeinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yishka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Ben Hanora, Elyon, Momel Hasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hako, Bezoher Aster Votia Oats, Umi Vigula, Livene Benehem, Benan Shemo Be'ava, Melech Hosera Moshiach Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Megan Abraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Yaakov Atah Rav Leoshia, Morid Atah, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Ramim, so make Novim Verofe Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Immunato Li Shefne Afar. Michamo Chabal Givurot, Umidom Leach, Melech Mimit, Umechaye, Umatzmich Yeshua, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום ללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Yasher Koach, thank you. You can have your seat. Everyone may be seated. So we come to the end of the High Holy Days, but not the end, as I said, of this holiday season. And there is this sense of, so now what? We've done all this deep soul searching. We've stood in the synagogue or at home for hours on end. We've fasted. We've thought about our lives. We've examined our own mortality. And then Yom Kippur is over and we eat some bagels and some blintzes, and then, so now what? And part of the experience is trying to appreciate that pause, as I said before. But I think part of it is also living in the so now what of life. Part of this moment is the awareness that sometimes we know the script. Sometimes we know that the Machzor will start on page 1, and by page 676, we'll be done with all the things we're supposed to say. And we hope the rabbi skips lots of pages in the middle. And sometimes we don't know the script. Sometimes we don't know what comes next. Sometimes we are flying by the seat of our proverbial pants. So as we prepare for a moment of silent prayer, I want to share with you one more poem by one of my favorite poets, or at least my favorite poets to turn into liturgy, Wenceslawa Szymborska, whose name I can never pronounce. But the poem is called Life While You Wait. And it captures, I think, some of the feeling of living in the so now what. It goes like this. Life while you wait. Performance without rehearsal. Body without alterations. Head without premeditation. I know nothing of the role I play. I only know it's mine. I can't exchange it. I have to guess on the spot just what this play's all about. Ill prepared for the privilege of living, I can barely keep up with the pace that the action demands. I improvise, although I loathe improvisation. I trip at every step over my own ignorance. I can't conceal my hayseed manners. My instincts are for happy histrionics. Stage fright makes excuses for me which humiliate me more. Extenuating circumstances strike me as cruel. Words and impulses you can't take back, stars you'll never get counted, your character like a raincoat you button on the run, the pitiful results of all this unexpectedness. If only I could just rehearse on Wednesday in advance or repeat a single Thursday that has passed. But here comes Friday with a script I haven't seen. Is it fair, I ask, my voice a little hoarse, since I couldn't even clear my throat off stage? You'd be wrong to think that it's just a slapdash quiz taken in makeshift accommodations. Oh no, I'm standing on the set and I see how strong it is. The props are surpassingly precise. The machine rotating the stage has been around even longer. The farthest galaxies have been turned on. Oh no, there's no question that this must be the premiere. And whatever I do will become forever what I've done. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives us this moment to catch our breath and find our lines on Shabbat. We continue with Shalom Rav, page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We take a few moments now to consider the play in which we all play a part, even if we don't know our lines. We take a few moments now for silent prayer.
עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל, amen.
We turn our prayers now to those who are in need of healing. We think not only of people who are sick in the conventional ways, but people who are hoping for wholeness in all sorts of ways. People who are struggling with chronic pain, chronic illness, people whose pains we see and people whose pains we can never know. People who are struggling with addiction and people who are in recovery. All those in our lives and in this world who are in need of wholeness. We think of those that take care of them, those that offer them strength. We think of our own power to offer strength to those in need of healing. We're thinking tonight of Bradley Borden, Melba Berman, Melanie Candler-Little, Miles Cohn, Richard Dana, Melinda Ellinger, Edward Feldman, Bart Fraley, Zach Fry, Richard Gerber, Georgianne Goldenberg, Marcine S. Goldman, Emily Goodfriend, Deborah Goodwin, Ellen Holzberg, Richard Jackson, Kyle M. Jacobs, Sarah James, Adam Kaplan, Barry Kaufman, Lawrence Levy, Bob Light, Elton Lipnick, Christine Marcus, Sam Peters, Michelle Renfro, Cantor Max Rubin and Lena Rubin, Edward Simmons, Linda Colby Stein, Mirvat Ted Rose, Marcia Tushida, Judy Schaffner Tucker, Roger Williams, Janice Zinn, Yvonne Zients, Ariella Sharon Bat Yafa Shoshana, Chana Sura, Daniel Zev Ben Zaharia HaKohen V'Miriam, Gelka Nechama Bat Leba Chaya, Leah Bat Shmuel V'Pesel, Leah Fruma, Shulamit Bat David V'Yonina, Yisrael Ben Levi, and all who are suffering with physical illness, emotional distress and pain, and those battling COVID-19. We offer these words of healing and hope and wholeness on page 253.
Bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And let us say Amen.
I am going to go off script just a little bit now and offer a blessing that is not in my cue sheet, but which feels very important to me on this day, to my grandmother, who is not here in the room, but I know is watching online because she often tunes in on her iPad. And my dad went out to be with her, and so I want to offer my grandmother this blessing. Here are some things that happened the year that my grandmother was born. The year that my grandmother was born, Grand Canyon became a national park. The year that my grandmother was born, the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution authorizing prohibition was ratified. The year that my grandmother was born, the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guaranteed the right to vote for women, was ratified by Congress and sent to individual states for ratification. The women's right to vote wouldn't happen until the next year. The year my grandmother was born, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. The year my grandmother was born, the life expectancy for males in the United States was 53.5 years, and the life expectancy for females was 56 years. And that's what makes it amazing that today my grandmother celebrates her 102nd birthday. I don't know if you can hear it on the stream, but the people in the room are clapping for you, just for living. But my grandmother, who is healthy enough that when we went to see her in August, she was picking up my twins. My grandmother, who just a few years ago knitted me this gorgeous tallis, is celebrating her 102nd birthday. In Judaism, we have this blessing that you say to someone when it's their birthday. You say, Ad mea v'esrim, may you live to be 120. And I'm starting to worry that that will be insufficient, God willing. But I want to wish my grandmother a very happy birthday, a very special birthday. We are sad that we can't be with you in person, but I'm glad the technology exists for you to at least tune in to services. It is such a blessing to have you in our lives. My grandmother, who sang at the Metropolitan Opera in the 1940s, and who is a source of wonderful stories, is a source of wonderful life lessons, who is a source of love and affection, who every day basks in the glow of her great-granddaughters, and who is such a blessing in our lives. So, Thelma Fixler, I want to offer you this blessing. May you have many, many more years. May we get to celebrate many more joyous occasions. May the world, which has changed so much in your lifetime, continue to welcome and embrace you as we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu, V'kiyamanu, V'higianu, Lazman Hazeh. Happy birthday, Grandma. Ella says happy birthday, Gigi. All right, rabbinic prerogative over. Back to announcements. Our sisterhood will host a book review on Zoom on Thursday, September 23rd at 7 p.m. The book is entitled A Seat at the Table, which will be reviewed by our congregant and pandemic preparedness extraordinaire, Ed Septimus. So please join us for that. You will need to register in advance. Make plans to join us for our Sukkot gathering, Sukkot Under the Stars, on Saturday, September 25th. That's so many S's. Sukkot gathering, Sukkot Under the Stars, on Saturday, September 25th at 7 p.m. The evening will begin with Havdalah, followed by an outdoor movie with delicious movie theater fare. We ask that you RSVP in advance due to capacity limitations. Our annual Simchat Torah Festival service, which will include the prayers of Yisker, will take place on Tuesday, September 28th at 10:30 a.m., both in person and online, in all the ways you've gotten used to connecting with us. And finally, information about connecting to consecration on Sunday, September 26th at 11 a.m., and a Reform Movement-wide Simchat Torah concert and storytelling extravaganza on Monday, September 27th at 6 p.m. can be found on our website. A story is told in the Talmud about the period after the destruction of the Second Temple, the greatest upheaval in the history of Jewish life, at least until that point. Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues were walking through the ruins of Jerusalem. When they reached Mount Scopus, they tore their garments. When they got to the Temple Mount, they saw a fox emerging from the place that the Holy of Holies had once been. The other rabbis started weeping. Rabbi Akiva started laughing. They said to him, "Why are you laughing?" He said to them, "Why are you crying?" They said, "A place so holy that it is said of it, the stranger that approaches it shall die. And now foxes traverse it. How can we not weep?" He replies, "That is why I laugh. Think of the prophets Uriah and Zechariah. Uriah foretold that Jerusalem would be destroyed. As it is written, therefore, because of you, Zion shall be plowed as a field. And Zechariah foretold that Jerusalem would be rebuilt. As it is written, old men and women shall yet sit in the streets of Jerusalem. As long as Uriah's prophecy had not been fulfilled, I feared that Zechariah's prophecy may not be fulfilled either. But now that Uriah's prophecy has come to pass, it is certain to me that Zechariah's prophecy will be fulfilled." With these words, they replied to him, "Akiva, you have consoled us." How do we make sense after destruction? How do we make sense when our vulnerability has been revealed? And is it possible in the wake of upheaval to find joy and laughter like Rabbi Akiva does? These are the questions we are left with on this day after Yom Kippur. We have managed to walk the winding paths through the depths of who by fire and who by water. We have beat our chests and admitted our wrongdoing. Tradition says that the empty ark of Kol Nidre is supposed to remind us of our own empty coffin waiting for us. We have stood unadorned before the infinite, before the image of our own mortality, and asked to be forgiven, to be given another year of life. And when the gates close, we are left not only with empty bellies, but with hollowed out souls, stripped of all our pretense and defensiveness. And now we stand on the cusp of Sukkot, a time of literal rebuilding. And it is called by our tradition Zaman Simchatenu, the time of our rejoicing. Somehow, in the few short days between the closing of the gates at Ne'ilah and the opening of Sukkot, as we move into our temporary booths, we are supposed to move also from solemnity to joy. How do we make that step? To see the shaky sukkah open to the wind and the rain, and like Akiva with his foxes, laugh. Many of you have heard me speak about Rabbi Alan Liu. Some of you have even walked through his powerful book with me or on your own over the past few years. The book is entitled imaginatively, "This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared." It is written to be read in line with the High Holy Day season. It begins with Tisha B'Av and concludes 200 or so pages later with his shortest chapter of all, "The Stars Are Shining on My Head," a tribute to the arrival of Sukkot. Tonight I'd like to share with you some of what Rabbi Liu teaches in this chapter in the hopes that it will help us find our joy as we prepare for the arrival of Sukkot. Rabbi Liu writes, "You shall dwell in booths for 7 days," the Torah enjoins us, "so that you will know with every fiber of your being that your ancestors dwelt in booths during their sojourn in the wilderness when they were leaving Egypt. This is a commandment we fulfill not with a gesture or a word, but with our entire body. We sit in the sukkah with our entire body. Only our entire body is capable of knowing what it felt like to leave the burden of Egyptian oppression behind, to let go of it." Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. The root of this word is sar, narrowness. Egypt was the narrow place. Only the entire body can know what it felt like to be pushed from a place of dire constriction into a wilderness, a spacious, open world. Only the body can know what it felt like to be born. Only the body can know the fullness of joy, and this is a commandment that can only be fulfilled with joy. All the holidays and all their rituals are to be observed with joy, but there is special joy, an extra measure of joy connected to Sukkot. The Torah mentions this requirement 3 times in connection to Sukkot. Or perhaps this special joy is precisely the joy of being stripped naked, the joy of being flush with life, the joy of having nothing between our skin and the wind and the starlight, nothing between us and the world. We have spent the past many weeks stripping ourselves naked, acknowledging our brokenness, allowing ourselves to see what we won't usually look at, embracing the emptiness at the core of our experience, reducing our lives to a series of impulses that rise up, then fall away again. And we have even let the reins of denial slip a little. We have relaxed our fierce determination to ward off death at any cost. We have invited ourselves to entertain the possibility that we might die. On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, we acknowledge who will live and who will die, and by Yom Kippur, we have acknowledged that it may very well be us. So now we sit flush with the world in a house that calls attention to the fact that it gives us no shelter. It is not really a house. It is the interrupted idea of a house, a parody of a house, Liu writes. The sukkah exposes the idea of a house, that the idea of a house is an illusion. The idea of a house is that it gives us security, shelter, haven from the storm, but no house can really offer us this. No building of wood and stone can ever afford us protection from the disorder that is always lurking around us. No shell we put between us and the world can ever really keep us secure from it. And we know this. We never really believed in this illusion. In the sukkah, a house that is open to the world, a house that freely acknowledges that it cannot be the basis of our security, we let go of this need. The illusion of protection falls away, and suddenly we are flush with our life, feeling our life, following our life, doing its dance one step after another. And when we speak of joy here, we are not speaking of fun. Joy is a deep release of the soul, and it includes death and pain. Joy is any feeling fully felt, any experience we give our whole being to. We are conditioned to choose pleasure and to reject pain. But the truth is, any moment of our life fully inhabited, any feeling fully felt, any immersion in the full depth of life can be the source of deep joy. Towards the end of Yisker yesterday, Cantor Simmons sang that song that always wrecks me. That line from Psalm 126, Ha'azorim bedima berina yiksoru. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. Debbie Friedman's triumphant melody gets me every time. And yet I have sometimes struggled with the theology of the psalmist's assertions. I want to believe when I am sowing in tears that I will someday reap in joy. But I know many people who never do, whose tears and tragedies stretch from planting time to harvest time and back again to planting time. The psalm seems to be teaching that God has promised a brighter tomorrow, but I know too many people whose lives have ended too abruptly or too painfully to sow, to reap in anything but tears. But Rabbi Lou gives us a different way of understanding this line. Tears do not always lead to joy, but we can look for the seeds of joy that will be watered with our tears. The promise of joyful reaping is not a truism, but a choice. It is not causality, but the offering of possibility. Okay, says Rabbi Lou, you have sown in tears, but now that you have sown, you've tilled the earth and planted fresh seeds of new beginnings. What comes next? Can we see the upheaval not as a destruction, but as an upturning of the soil so that new things can grow? The holiday of spiritual emptying out is over. So we go out and we build the best sukkah we can, and shaky as it may be, it remains a home. And so we close the coffin with the book of life, and we turn towards building. We build a home even on unstable ground, reminding us that we make the choice to live even in the face of our own death. And in this way, we enact the truth of our lives, that even after tears, we go on planting, sowing the seeds of our own joyful reaping, feeling the fullness of all that life has to offer. May this Sukkot be an invitation to life, to peace, and to joy. May it remind us that we have the power to build, that the choice to turn to joy is always available to us. We need only seize it. And may this joyful season of celebration set the stage for a year of harvesting in new possibilities. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Try it with us. Those who sow in tears, will reap with joy, reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in
We continue now on page 282. Please rise for Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, life and death. We take a few moments now for silent memory. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. On this Shabbat, we recall the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Lottie Axelrod, Ronald Bass, Bill Baum, Shirley Abramson Bell, Larry Bernstein, Barbara Joan Bernstein, Meyer Blinderman, Florence Blum, Mary Bronstein, Abe Cohen, Florence Oshman Davis, Elise DeFord, Soretta Liebson Diamond, Irving Dochin, Henrietta Dubinsky, Nettie Engler, Sidney Feldman, Ida Fine, Nathan Finkelstein, Jerry Kaplan Foreman, Irving Forrest, Nat Friedman, Samuel Friedman, Andrea Shapiro Gottlieb, Pincus Greenider, Hertz Hank Henkoff, Stuart Herbst, Emmanuel Moses Huckman, Bell Holzberg, Mitchell Horwitz, Kitty Isaacs, Saul Jucker, Paula Kahn, Ruth Kalmans, Lester Kamen, Esther Can, Sydney B. Karen, Betty Katz, Carolyn Kaufman, I.H. Pete Kogut, Seema Krajmalnik, Emma Kroll, Samuel J. Kuntz, Rosalind Kurtz, Howard Kuttner, Rose Lapidus, Rita T. Lee, Selma Lempert, Donald Leventhal, Gary Levy, Jacob Littman, Kate Marcus, Morris Noble, Marissa Parkans, Bernard Paul, Morris Sonny Penner, Gloria Pepper Katz, Leslie Blair Plasterick, William Joel Poplack, Helen Reich, Bernice Reich, Philip Rich, Selma Rose Selma Ruth Rose, Mary Rosenberg, Alan David Rosenthal, Goldie Salzberg, Evelyn Karchmer Schlater, Ruth Schnitzer, Joe Schumann, Richard Schwartz, Stefan Schwartz, Bernard Schwartzberg, Rosalie Ablon Schwarz, David Seltzer, Adele S. Sarens, Hyman Shumsky, Barnett Simon, Ruth Slutsky, Maynard Smith, Louis Stein, Bernard Stolben, Frida Stolman, Paula Strauss, Dorothy Tapper, Manuel Taub, Jeannie Teplitsky, Joseph Trubeck, Faye Tucker, Slava Tunitsky, Dean Morley Vane, Mark L. Waterman, Philip M. Wax, Sadie Davis Weintraub, Susan E. Wolf, Ronald Wolf, Harry Zellinger, and Joseph Zimmerman. We stand together as one community for the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei ve'al michmal chutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchamam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shmei dikudsha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'ne'emata, tamiram be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Please be seated. It is now my joy, as we move from Kaddish to Kiddush, to invite up Jack and his parents, Marcus and Dorian, and Jack's brothers, Gray and Cole and Cooper and his cousin Rosie, to join him for Kiddush and Motzi. This is for you. Oop. We'll get to that in a minute.
Ready? Baruch
atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech
haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava v'ratzon hinichilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikraye kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta ve'otanu kidasha mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. You can have a sip. And now we say Motzi. Hold up that fabulous challah. I don't want people to miss it. It's really impressive. Yeah, okay. He's very tall. That's what makes it look small. All right. Anyway. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem im haaretz. Amen. All right, try not to eat that all in one bite. There may or may not be something for you. All right, you guys can go back to your seat. Thank you, thank you. Mazel tov. Our closing song this evening. Oh, did you want to say something about our closing song?
Go ahead.
Okay. Our closing song this evening is Hine Matov. How good it is to be together, whether we're in person or online, to build community together. Hopefully we will all have safe opportunities to dwell in each other's Sukkot. So, Hine Matov, page 340.
Hine matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. 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 How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Sheberachim gam yachad.
Please rise for the benediction. O God, source of the fullness of our joy, source of our sorrows as well as our triumphs, God who is with us when we sow, and God who is with us when we reap, God who helps us with all of our plantings and all of our harvests. May the Sukkot that we build, temporary structures as they may be, remind us that life can be full of joy even when it's temporary, that life can be full of possibility even when it's short, that we can find in this holiday season space to breathe, space to rest, space to create new possibilities. May we celebrate the abundance that's in our lives. May we find community, family, and strength. And may we all live to be 120. And we say together, Amen.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Ella, come here.